Hello guys, how are you guys doing? I'm so glad that everyone's here today. I'm glad that you guys have joined us. Time seems to be ticking right now. We only have 57 days until the election, and so there's a lot of, I don't know, I feel a lot of urgency to do a lot of stuff. We only have a month to register voters, and then that whole window completely shuts. So October 11th is the deadline to register voters. So right now it's go time. We've got to get busy and got to, do what we can to get, people out there and registered to vote and engaged. This meeting, we're combining a few chapters together. So we have, North Austin, which was kind enough to let us impose on their meeting time. We have Westlake, we have South Central, and so I'm so excited that we're all doing this together because it's so much work to put on one meeting, and we rather spend our time, GSD, getting stuff done, doing stuff we need to do. That being said, we really have a great meeting for you guys. We're so excited. We have both mayoral candidates here, Celia Israel and Kirk Watson, and our North Austin president, Julie, is going to go ahead and ask them some questions. And so I'm really happy about that. Hopefully it'll be good for you guys. If you're on the fence, maybe it'll let you know who you want to vote for. We're also pleased to have Jeremy Smith. He has the new revision of Map the Vote called Campaign OS. And so, and it's a really good app. I've got to tell you this. So I was using Campaign OS because I always want to try to do stuff before I ask you guys to do it. And basically, I went to a house that was on the list. There was a big old Beto sign in front of it. And no one was registered to vote inside. Seriously. I mean, why would you? You got a Beto sign, but you're not registered to vote. So anyways, but the people are registered to vote. So to me, it seems like the houses that I've run into, they're more democratic than they were. And also the list used to have a lot of dots, and now it seems like they've slimmed it down. So I think that he's pulled the Republicans out of there, which is a really good thing. So anyways, he's going to show you about that. And like I said, we have 30 days or so to do that. So I'm really excited about that. We also have 3 candidates for the Supreme Court of Texas. That court is 100% Republican. I know it's shocking, but I mean, this is really not a good thing to happen. So we can move a third of that court into the whole Democratic candidate category if we can, get our people to vote and to vote all the way down the ballot. And that's really important, is that when we talk to people, we need to make sure we tell people that it's really important to vote every single one all the way down the ballot. So and then we also have some other potential judges, and they are going to be the Austin Court of Appeals and Criminal Court of Appeals. So we'll be talking to them. And then at the end of the meeting, we're going to do a little bit of reach training. And the reach training, Carrie Collier-Brown will be doing, and she's one of our founders. If you have not done the reach training, please stay on. If you haven't added a lot of people to reach, please stay on. It's really, this is going to be probably the most important thing that we do, is get everyone on reach and get your whole network of friends on reach. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Michelle, because she's going to give us an update on the 2 million project / reach, which I'm using interchangeably.
Thanks, Elisa. Hey, everybody, it's Michelle Reinhardt. Good to see you. Thanks for the other chapters for combining. I do want to give you guys a quick update on Reach. So Reach is the app that we're using. 2 million Texans is the actual campaign. So what we want you to do, and I can drop these links as soon as I finish talking is, if you have not gotten on Reach, what I want you to do while we're talking is I want you to download the app on your phone, and I want you to set up an account, and I want you to look for the 2 Million Texans campaign. That's a number 2 Million Texans campaign. So this is going to be the largest relational organizing project that's ever been done. We have hired the guy who ran the one for Ossoff and Warnock, and he has come on board, and he is a Texan, and he is so excited to do this. We have added 75,000 contacts in like 3 weeks. So the campaign is going swimmingly well, but we do want everybody to use this app. Why do we want everybody to use this app? Because it supercharges the contacts you already know. So the people you already know, it basically brings their voter history to you, and you can see when they vote. You can see if they're registered. So these key things that we need to do, you can see if they have an 18-year-old, a 20-year-old who needs a ballot by mail, who needs to talk to their parents about how they're going to vote. We need to get these conversations started, and Reach will help us do that. It's a one-to-one communication platform. So please do think about that. Now, how are we doing this? We have to raise money to support this campaign, and that is going to be so incredibly important. So most of you guys remember in 2020, we wrote a lot of postcards and we mailed them, and we raised almost $10,000 in postage. So what I want to challenge you guys to do is, during this meeting, I want to try to hit that number. I want to try to raise $10,000 for 2 million Texans. And Elisa herself has already pledged to match the first $1,000 that we raise. So if we raise $1,000 this afternoon, it becomes 2,000. I know I sound like I'm a telemarketer or something, but you know that I care about you guys, and I care about us getting out the vote. And I think this tool is going to do it. So I'm going to drop a link for you. Yes, that's the one. Elisa dropped it. We're going to try to raise the money this afternoon. I'm going to put in some money. Elisa's going to put in some money. We need to support this campaign. It takes people, it takes data, it takes a lot of us working together to get this done. So I'm super excited about it. I've got 450 contacts in there already. I'm reaching out to people I know, like my kids' college friends, and saying, hey, do you have a plan to vote? So these are the kinds of conversations we need to have, and we want you guys to join us. That's it. Back to you.
Yeah, so if you guys can seriously donate to the Reach thing, I mean, if we are ever going to flip Texas, this is it. This is the deal. And the reason that it's so powerful is that, you know, it's not some text that you get from, some random text. It's a text that you get from, like, from me to my friends. And you can see it's so much fun to use, because it's basically you're spying on people. You can see if they voted. And, you know, all of us think that our friends vote. And you know what? It's total bullshit. They do not. There are so many people on my contact that complain about this, complain about that, and they do not vote. And so just to have a tool where you can be like, you're accountable for this, and I can tell that you have not voted, is a big deal. And for me and my friends with the college age students to go to their mom and say, hey, just want to let you know, your daughter hasn't voted. I mean, that is a big deal. Because really, I mean, if you think Beto lost by 215,000 votes, it's nothing. It is such a small percentage. And so we just need to do this. And I mean, I'm, putting my money where my mouth is and everything. But you know what? Doing this is going to be so much cheaper than me moving out of Texas. So, I mean, I am willing to fight for it. Let's get out there and do this. I mean, we just need to. So anyways, for all of you guys who have gotten on Reach also, and you haven't added a bunch of contacts, I challenge you tonight to add at least 10 more contacts. If you, because that's the other thing. There are people who have done training and have kind of gotten stuck. If you're stuck, reach out to us and we'll help you. I mean, we have it at postcard parties. We have training, at all our postcards and parties and stuff. And so let's get you over that hump, and let's get going on this. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Julie, who's going to talk to our mayoral candidates.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Gilberg. I'm the president of Blue Action Dems North Austin, and we're really happy to be on this joint meeting today with Southwest and Westlake and South Central. So next up is, as Elise said, our mayoral candidates, Celia Israel and Kirk Watson. Each will get a 2-minute intro, and then they'll each have some questions. They'll get 2 minutes each to answer those questions. So I'd like to bring them up. Maybe someone could spotlight them so everyone can see them. And I'd like to start with Celia, Rep. Israel, to introduce herself and talk about her race.
Hey, Julie. Hey, everybody. Thank you for your time today. It's been a busy weekend for us at Team Celia. But real quickly, for those of you who don't know, I'm in the legislature now. I hope you do know that I've been a fighter for us for what will be a 9-year term in the legislature. I've served in the Transportation Committee and the Elections Committee, and Homeland Security Committee, and now the Insurance Committee. I decided last year to really evaluate whether I should continue to serve in the legislature or lean in on the city that molded me when I got here in 1982. I'm running for office because I wasn't feeling a sense of urgency from the city when it came to those who are hurting, whether they are unhoused or housed. Folks are wondering, where's my place in Austin? And I have been a fighter for you on everything from transportation, mass transit, transportation safety, bodily autonomy, for God's sake, we have to say that at this time, immigrant rights, LGBT rights, specifically more recently, standing up for trans kids who just want to play basketball. I have a vision of Austin that is bringing people in instead of pushing people out. And I believe that we can do that together. I will say that this is the first time that we will have an election in concert with a governor's race, a hotly contested governor's race. And as a Latina, as a member of the LGBT community, I do believe I represent the diversity that is Austin. And I look forward to being the first Latina of any major American city, and the first Latina LGBT member of what is now the 11th largest city in the country. So I look forward to our discussion today. Thank you.
Okay, so let's bring up Senator Watson so he can introduce himself.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity, and I'm glad to see so many people on the screen. Briefly, if you don't know who I am, my name is Kirk Watson, and I was mayor of Austin from 1997 to 2001, and then I was the Democratic nominee for Attorney General in 2002. And many people that I've seen on here were supporters of mine and helped back then. Prior to my elective public life as mayor, I served as an appointment of Governor Ann Richards to chair a state agency. It was one of the predecessor agencies to what we now know as TCEQ. I also served as party chair in Travis County Democratic Party, and I also was president of what we used to call the Austin Democratic Foundation or club. After being Attorney General candidate and that not working out the way we had all hoped, in 2006, I ran for the Texas Senate and was elected. And I served as the Democratic caucus chair in the Texas Senate. And we can talk about a variety of things that were priorities and things that were done. When we talk about things like standing up for people's rights, I took the lead on the fighting back on the so-called bathroom bill of Dan Patrick's. I was also very involved in the filibuster that Wendy Davis did for abortion rights. And in fact, I'm pleased that Wendy has endorsed me in this campaign. I left the Senate to become the founding dean of the Hobby School of Public Affairs at the University of Houston. That was one of those situations where I announced that I was going to leave a job I enjoyed and loved and take that job. And of course, they closed the campus the month after I announced that. So it changed the whole dynamic. And so I served in that position for 13 months and I never really left Austin, but I guess you could say I'm back. That being said, I think that Austin is one of those places that one of the things I've always loved about it is that it is a place that anyone can be who they want to be, even within the state of Texas. Austin provides that opportunity. We need to focus on affordability. That includes, of course, housing and housing stock, but it also includes things like making sure that we're the best city in America to raise a kid, because childcare is the second biggest cost in most households, just behind housing. I also think we need to have a specific program that addresses how we get people into so many of the jobs that are being created, even jobs that don't require 4-year degrees, so that our kids coming out of high school immediately go into jobs where they can start putting money in their pocket and be able to afford to stay here and deal with the cost of living. I have some additional specific plans, but I'm going to leave it at that by way of introduction and let us answer questions. So thank you all very much.
So thank you for those introductions. Sorry, I have my cats. This is going to start with, actually, can you bring, both Kirk and Celia up, or thanks. So let's start with Kirk on this question, and then it'll go to Celia. The city of Austin semi-frequently runs into an issue where we pass progressive measures like paid sick leave and the plastic bag ban that are then attacked and neutralized by the governor and the legislature. As mayor, how would you address this, and how would you work to pass your initiatives?
Well, a key part of this is that we need to have a mayor that has relationships that can be worked at the state capitol, and not just be in a situation where when we pass something, it's going to automatically be assumed that the legislature is going to try to take it apart. Things like paid sick leave. One of the things that has been created is that there's been kind of a war. When I was mayor the first time, many people will remember that we also had difficulties going into my time as mayor with the legislature, because then it was more of an environmental problem, and they were trying to stop what we were doing in terms of protecting the environment out over the aquifer and in Southwest Travis County. We were able to change that whole dynamic by coming up with ways to deal with the legislature and also have people that could explain what was going on. And we were able to be successful. Now, we had to fight some fights, and I kind of led the fights in some of the litigation that we had to fight in order to win in some of those instances. And by the way, your comments about winning back some of those seats on the Supreme Court would be very important in that regard. But it's a question of pushing through your agenda, making sure that you have the ability to have a broad and deep constituency, and being able to explain it in a way where you're not creating unnecessary enemies.
Celia, would you please answer the same question? And if you need me to repeat it, I can.
I think I got it, and it is difficult to be a member of the legislature and represent Austin when Austin is being used as a piñata, political piñata, for no good reason other than we are Austin and we are special. I've been here since 1982. I as a member of the LGBT community, as a Latina, I get it. We have a special culture here, but I also know we need to know when to stand strong and stand firm, and when we can work with our colleagues. I have a good reputation with my Republican colleagues across the aisle. They have to vote in ways that none of us here would approve of. But when it comes to defending Austin Energy, when it comes to speaking out, I've spoke up on the House floor to take the Uber and Lyft bill and make it a better piece of legislation. So I have a good experience on standing strong for Austin, and continue to do so. We'll continue to do so from the perch of the mayor's office, where I hope that I am working with a Governor O'Rourke and a Lieutenant Governor Collier, who will get us focused on the big issues, the grid, Medicaid expansion, taking care of mainstream Texans instead of playing games on the fringes.
Great. So let's start with Celia on this one. So one of the biggest crises facing Austin right now is the lack of affordable housing and just the struggle over how to develop it. So part one is, what are the details of your plan to address this crisis? And then number two is, do you have a plan to address unhoused residents, and what is it?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I have a plan. I've had a plan since June, and that is, if you go to celiafораustin.com and click on Homes for All, you'll see a 6-part plan, and I will outline it quickly for you. We need to do public good with public land. Austin owns 6,000 parcels of land, not acres, parcels. And we sure as hell know how to slow things down instead of speed things up. I'm moving with urgency on this issue. I'm not leaving the legislature to do another study. We have become accustomed to slowing things down at the city of Austin. We need to make housing transit friendly. That means not just on the corridors like Lamar and Congress, but adjacent to, so that more nurses and bus drivers and workforce folks can walk to the corridor, get on a bus. As I have mentioned a lot, my dad was a truck driver and mom never learned how to drive. She never had a license. So for me, I know that transportation is a game changer for certain families. It can be an equity, an opportunity for someone to say yes to a job at the intersection of 34th and Lamar, because the city of Austin did something good with its public land at the intersection of Justin and Lamar. We need rental relief programs. We can never forget that we have a duty to make Austin safer. So when it comes to Vision Zero, that's a component, but making Austin work for Austin families, and aging in place. As a woman of a certain age, Celinda and I would love to age in place. And that means giving more people the freedom when it comes to ADUs and home preservation. I think we're at a different place politically now than we were just a few years ago. People are now worrying, well, where are my kids going to live? Where are my grandkids going to live? And they should have a partner in the city of Austin who's going to help them with that flexibility and the creativity around keeping their home and perhaps building a studio in the back. That's a dream that Linda and I have had. But that's the crux of it. And I'm proud to say that we launched our campaign in January and was bold enough to say that we were in a crisis at that time. Other voices have been saying it for a long time. But transportation is something that I've spent a lot of my years before I was a legislator and during my time in the legislature. And this is an opportunity to move the city forward. Thank you.
Okay. And now, Kirk, same question, please.
Sure.
If you need me to repeat it, I can.
No, I got it. And there's a lot packed into that question, so let me talk real fast. First of all, we need to fix the permitting system. There's no excuse for why it takes so long particularly when you're in a housing emergency. We have to act urgently. What I suggested we do is we create our own Austin version of the Sunset Commission, which I was happy to serve on for many years while I was in the legislature, where we can scrub that place from top to bottom, rule out inefficiencies, talk about best practices, and then implement those. Do that on a short timeline. You do it through the city auditor's office, which reports to the mayor and council. Do that in 9 months, and then urgently implement that so that you speed things up. Second is we're gonna have to start thinking differently. We've been for about 10 years now, we've been stagnated and we've not been able to make changes because we've taken an all or nothing approach to the way we do things. We're gonna have to quit doing that. We're gonna have to figure out how we can make changes and get those changes without making it something where it's a zero-sum game. The third thing that I've put out there is that when we talk about transit corridors, I see the passage of Project Connect as not only the passage of a transportation foundation, but it's a housing foundation. And we will need to even have, in some instances, minimums of what can be built, as opposed to the way Austin does it, which is this is the maximum you can build. We'll need to make numerous changes to LDC that allow for less parking, change the compatibility standards, but it will allow for more ADUs, more duplexes or fourplexes where now you get McMansions, and there's going to need to be a focus on rental. With regard to the unhoused residents, again, we've got to get away from an all or nothing approach where you're either in the shadows or on the street or permanent supportive housing. That doesn't provide any dignity or any opportunity for people that are living on the street to get to services. We must enforce the camping ban because we've been told that not only legislatively, but by the people who voted. So what we're going to have to do is provide places for people to go where they have access to services, they have access to security. And I could go on and on about that. But in addition, we're going to need to make sure we have a mental health program. Many of you know that I got over $370 million to redo the Austin State Hospital, but I don't want just a hospital. I also passed legislation so that what we could do is have Dell Medical School help us reimagine the mental health in Central Texas, and that is going to include specific focus on those residents of ours that are living without housing, so that we can keep them from having, when they have a crisis, be put right back out on the street or go to couch surfing, and after a short period of time, they're on the street.
So next question, starting with Kirk, and then moving on to Celia. So our city has grown beyond what anyone imagined it would. And as a result, we're often stuck in traffic. We've all experienced this, and we're viewed as being behind in terms of transportation infrastructure. So what are the details of your transportation plan?
Well, let's start with, first of all, there's about $25 billion that's going to be available for a variety of transportation uses. Part of that includes the airport, of course. Part of that includes I-35. Part of that includes Project Connect. And then you've got a number of bond elections that have been available. So one of the key things, by the way, ought to be transparency in that and having accountability sessions so that we know that the money on this very important perennial problem is actually getting spent and actually getting used. In addition to that, we're going to have to look at Project Connect and make sure that we're able to do Project Connect like the voters told us they wanted to have. And we need to have it. I wish we'd have passed it back in 2000 when we lost by less than 2,000 votes, although we won in Austin. But think of how different this city would have been. We cannot let that vote go away. We do need to scrub and make sure we're providing it in an efficient, cost-effective way. But we have to make sure Project Connect happens. Second is Interstate 35. Representative Israel and I have worked on Interstate 35 for a long time together, although there may be some changes now as a result of the campaign. But the truth of the matter is I-35 can be made better, not only for transportation purposes, but for transit purposes. And it can be made better so that it's not the monument to racism, and you can actually cap it and provide the sort of connection that even allows biking and pedestrian east and west in a way that we ought to do. We need to speed up the airport, and I could go into detail about that. But in addition to that, we ought to have a means for there to be coordination among all the groups that are going to be doing all these major projects. And I've called for that. And I've also called for a 511 system so that people that have to get around town when we're doing all of these big projects will have a way to check to see what is the best way for them to get where they need to go.
Sorry. And Celia, can you please answer the same question?
Sure. On my website, if you go to mobility, Celia for Austin, we put out a 4-part plan last week. And it's about innovation and creativity. The future of transportation is autonomous. The future of transportation is electric, or at the very least hybrid. And we need to build our facilities for that. I'm calling for microtransit to serve outlying areas that are not currently served as well by our transit authority, by Cap Metro. So number one, we need to embrace technology. I would also say, of course, I jumped categories on you earlier. Vision Zero is something I've spent a lot of time on, transportation safety. We drive too fast, we drive distracted. There is a role for the city to play in that topic. We must continue to do the good work that the city has done around that. And then delivering on the vision of Project Connect as someone who has used transit all of her life and advocated for transit as an equity solution for so many people. We need to make sure that we are accommodating better bus, better rail, and it is not going to happen overnight. But in Mayor Israel, you will have a tenacious ally to make sure that we are doing right by Project Connect that was overwhelmingly supported by the voters. And on I-35, we do need a better I-35. My vision, though, is not one of stitches and caps. It's cap it and build value on that cap and build value for our future. And that way, we truly do reconnect West Austin and East Austin, and eliminate that the racist monster that was I-35 when it was first built. It's a beast. But we cannot accept that we're getting the best deal from TxDOT. We as a Travis County delegation have written 3 different letters to TxDOT urging differences, urging creativity, urging transit solutions. And we haven't been getting that. And our mayor and council have been have a voice, and I will be a strong voice. Why should I accept the silver when I can get the gold? This is not just a single generation decision. This is a multi-generational decision. We got to get it right, and I am committed to that.
So with that, I'd really love for you to begin your close. So we'll start with Rep Israel, and you can begin closing for us.
Gotcha. Well, thank you guys so much for your time and for your attention. First and foremost, thank you for all that you do to help us turn Texas blue. You know, I was there with you in 2020 when I headed up the House PAC, where we thought we were going to flip the House, and it ended up being a defend the House initiative in the age of a pandemic and stupid Donald Trump. But as a state representative, I have been a fighter for the people of Austin. You know me, you know where I've been, you know where my heart is. And I will stand up for our community again. I'll just be doing it in a different way, mainly working on issues around affordability and inclusivity. I want to be a mayor for all. And I want to be a mayor that fights for housing affordability. I'm the only one in this race who has a bold and inclusive plan to help working families actually live in the city of Austin. If you work in the city of Austin, you should be able to live in the city of Austin. Every major American city is going through this crisis right now. I want to look back on my time as mayor and say, look at what we did. The other cities are going to say, wow, look at what Austin did. Being creative and being and working with our nonprofits and with our community and with our own real estate. I will be a mayor that will realize the promise of Project Connect, and we will live up to that uniform that is the 11th largest city in the country. I will be a mayor that fights for our fundamental freedoms and communities that have been left behind. We cannot tolerate that. Make no mistake, this election is not about nostalgia. This election is about who can afford to live here and who gets to decide. We get to decide. I am not fighting for the good old boys or the status quo. I'm fighting for creative approaches to how we run the city of Austin, and I want to look forward with you. And thank you all so much for your time today.
And with that, can we have Senator Watson close?
Be happy to. And again, I want to also say thanks to all of you, not only for being here today and being a part of this and listening to us, but also for all the work you do to help elect Democrats. I've been proud to be a Democrat, and I walked through you some of that history, but I've also been proud to have been involved arm in arm with so many of you as we try to elect Democrats. And that's one of the things I love about our city. That one of the things that I look forward to when I'm your mayor is being able to create not only the vision that we have been so successful in creating in the past, but also then being able to get it done. And I bring that to you as someone who has been able to get big things done that we needed to have done in our city. Those that are closest to the city and know how that works have been people that have endorsed me. I'm very proud to have been endorsed by AFSCME, which represents our city workers, because they know not only the work I did for them on their behalf when I was it was mayor the first time, but they believe in my vision for where we ought to go in the future. I'm very pleased to have been endorsed by the EMS union and also by the firefighters and also by the Central Labor Council when they made their endorsements. The folks that know how the city operates and that know me and know what we might be able to accomplish, they're the ones that are endorsing me, and I'm proud to have that. I want your support because I believe Austin is at a turning point. It's at a critical point. We cannot let this time pass without actually implementing some of the good progressive ideas. I have a successful record of bringing you progressive, practical ideas and then putting them to work. And I ask for your support in this election. But thank you very much for having the forum. I look forward to seeing you out on the campaign trail.
Okay, well, so thank you to both Representative Israel and Senator Watson for joining us today. And I'd also really like to thank Ash Hall for writing these questions for us. Thank you for your contribution to that. So I'm going to move on to the next part of the program where we're going to talk about all the ways that you can get involved and get shit done this coming 2 months to help get out the vote. So in North Austin, we have many, many things happening. First off, we are doing a series of VDR block walks through apartments every Saturday at 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and Sundays at 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. They're leaving from 5 different locations. We're doing this. We just recently heard that the Republican Party, the Travis County Republican Party, has been going to these same doors and talking to students and people at apartments and saying that they should not register in Austin, and that, generally trying to tell them that they should not register to vote here. And by going out and knocking on these doors, we can have a giant effect in adding people to the voter rolls. Right now, women and progressive men are registering at really, really high numbers, and these folks can help us flip the state. So I would really, really love for you to join us at these block walks. Then on Tuesdays at 5:30 to 7:30 p.m., we have postcard parties at Central Market and Poorhouse, where we're writing GOTV postcards, which is fantastic and very fun. And then from there, we also have voter influencer training those same Tuesdays from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. So you can come and catch one or the other at Central Market or Poorhouse. Lastly, we have a volunteer recruitment phone bank over Zoom on Wednesdays at 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. This is a great phone bank where we're calling people who voted in the most recent Democratic primary runoff. They're folks that are really hooked in and really aware of what's going on and asking them to volunteer. And a couple of weeks ago, we actually signed up Greg Abbott's former law partner who's wasn't happy with Greg Abbott. So please come join us. We'd love to have you. And now I'll pass this off to Jeanette.